What's up, everyone? Hockey Time here, back for another edition of NHL Power Rankings. A wild week this week. Tons of high scoring games, two 9+ goal games, which is rare to have in the same week. Columbus suddenly trying to be entertaining. Elvis Merzlikins trying to fight Tom Wilson. That's never a great idea, but nonetheless, all that went down in 1 week. So let's not waste any more time. Real quickly, though, I do want to wish a happy holidays to everyone during this holiday season. Try to unwind as best you can. I know being around family is not always the least stressful thing, but hopefully everyone finds a way to enjoy themselves. We do have the World Juniors coming up, which I will be covering next week. I'm not sure exactly what the plans are going to be for next week's power rankings because of the short week for the NHL, but we'll deal with that down the road once we get there. Starting this week, though, number 32, the same team that was number 32 last week, are the Anaheim Ducks. 2-1-0 this week, 3-7-0 in their last 10. They were better this week. They get Drysdale and McTavish back as well, which is, of course, huge news for them, but just not quite enough yet for me to raise them out of this bottom spot. Their record over the last 15 games really has been atrocious, so I need to see a bit more of them before I can bring them up from 32. But I would say if they continue this trend next week, that will probably happen because at number 31, also the same spot as last week, is Chicago. 1-2 on the week, 3-6-1 in their last 10. This is very likely the team that will drop to 32nd if the Ducks climb out, though another team is waiting in the works for that. Number 30, dropping 3 spots, the Ottawa Senators. This team has been brutal recently. They cannot find wins if it saved their lives. They, of course, fired DJ Smith. They're the only team so far this season to not get the new coach bump. They lose that game and every subsequent game since the hiring of DJ Smith. So really just a rough week for the Sens. 0-3, again 3-7-0 in their last 10. They've been brutal. They got to figure something out because this is a team that had playoff expectations, and at this rate, they're just not going to get there, and they frankly might not be very close. So 30th for the Sens. 29th, also dropping 3 spots, is San Jose. After their good little run there, they have kind of returned to earth this week. They go 0-3, 4-5-1 in their last 10, a bit more along the lines of what we expected. I don't think this team was as bad as they were in the first 2-3 weeks of the season, but obviously they were not the team that was going, well above 500 in a course of 10 games regularly. So about where we expected San Jose to be. I do expect them to probably fall back down this list, pending Ottawa, Chicago, and the Ducks, but time will tell on that one. Number 28, jumping 2 spots, excuse me. 1-1-1 on the week, 4-4-2 in their last 10 is Columbus. Again, the Blue Jackets found their way into some pretty entertaining games this week. They hammer the Sabres, 9-goal game there. And then we'll talk about the Sabres next game soon, but they then face Washington. That game goes to overtime. Is also pretty entertaining. Ovi breaks his goal drought, and then of course we have the whole situation with Merzlikins and this fantastic photo of the Caps after that win, which I love dearly as a Capitals fan. But nonetheless, they had an all right week, good enough with these teams dropping to go up a couple spots. So for now, they sit at number 28. Number 27, also moving up 2 spots, mostly thanks to the good fortunes of teams dropping in front of them, is Seattle. They go 1-0-2 on the week, so not necessarily true 500, but you give 4 points in 3 games. You'll take it, I guess, if you're Seattle. They need a lot more of this, though. I mean, the goaltending hasn't been great from them. DeCord was really good this week, but they need that in longer stretches, especially while they're missing Philip Grubauer. They're still 3-4-3 in their last 10, so they have not been good overall, but this week was good enough to get them bumped up just a few spots. Number 26, dropping 2 spots. The Buffalo Sabres, they get, again, lambasted by Columbus, and then they go into Toronto, and they put up a 9 spot of their own, mostly thanks to Ilya Samsonov not being able to stop a beach ball, and Toronto having basically quit by the time Martin Jones came in. So despite that victory, they still drop a couple of places. 1-2-0 this week. That, again, win against the Leaf, the only win of the week. 4-5-1 in their last 10, just still struggling to find consistency. Of course, the more this happens, the less I like their odds at making the playoffs. So a bit disappointing there because it would have been nice to see them make it, but season's far from over, so who knows? But for now, they do sit at number 26. Number 25, moving up 3 spots. They had a very strong week. 3-0, 4-4-2 in their last 10. It's the Calgary Flames. They need more of this, much like the Sabres, if they want to make the playoffs in the Western Conference. Of course, the Pacific has turned out to be pretty strong this year with Vegas, Los Angeles, and Vancouver all having very good starts to the year, and of course, Edmonton being as good as they've been in the last couple of weeks. So they need a lot more of this if they're going to make it back in, but this is definitely the start that Calgary needed. Having Markstrom back, he has been very, very good. So curious to see if it goes to a Markstrom Dustin Wolf tandem, or if they still try to keep Dan Vladar up in the NHL. Obviously, he'd have to go through waivers, so he's not going to the minors. We'll see if a trade comes out of that. We'll see if they roll with three goalies. I don't think you want to sit Dustin Wolf for extended periods, but I do think he's worthy of being at the very least their NHL backup at this point. So good stuff for Calgary this week, up 3 spots to number 25. Number 24, moving up just the 1 spot despite a very good week, is Montreal. They go 3-0-1, 5-2-3 in their last 10. This team is quietly staying in the fight for a playoff spot in the Atlantic, especially with the falling out of teams like Ottawa and Detroit recently. But um, they, much like some other teams here, have a lot of work to do. But 3-0-1 on a week is definitely a good way to climb back into things. They've done just that. The goaltending's been good. They've been doing a good job limiting the shots they're facing too, for the most part at least. So that's important for them. They have goalies that can keep them in games when needed. If they can limit the shots to 35 and lower, they're probably giving themselves a good chance to win. So good stuff from Montreal here, moving up a spot to number 24. Number 23, the biggest drop on the week, 5 spots, 1-3-0 this week. It's Detroit. This team finally got a win after bringing in Patrick Kane. He's been performing actually pretty decent offensively since being brought in, but as a whole, this team 3-6-1 in their last 10. Just not good defensively. Like, they've been putting up a decent amount of goals, but just can't keep the puck out of their own net. Of course, Philly Husso and Alex Lyon both injured for this team recently, so their tandem, I believe, now is James Reimer and Michael Hutchinson, which is not what you want to see if you are Steve Yzerman or a Red Wings fan in general, but nonetheless, you got to do what you got to do. Injuries happen. It's just very unfortunate when it's your starting and probably backup goalie at this point, so the Wings need to turn this around quickly. They have fallen, I believe, to fifth in the Atlantic, and I don't think Montreal's crazy far behind them. So, got to keep the pace up for them. Again, no one expected them to be as good as they were to start the season. I don't think anyone expects them to be this bad, though. So, somewhere in the middle is where they need to find themselves. But given this little drought, they got to play some good hockey in the coming weeks. For now, they are number 23. 22, moving up just 1 spot, 2-1-0 on the week, 4-6-0 in their last 10. Excuse me for the cat in the background, but it's St. Louis. St. Louis has been better since the firing of Craig Berube, but really haven't seen a consistent, coach bump like Edmonton did. We'll see if they can continue it. I'm starting to doubt their ability to make a push for a wild card spot in the West, but the West is just kind of weird in general this season. So I could be very quickly proven wrong there, but just good enough of a week to move up a spot. They do have the luck of Detroit falling pretty mightily. Otherwise, they probably would have stayed the same spot they were last week, despite the above 500 record. So for now, the Blues at number 22. Number 21, also dropping 4 spots, is the Carolina Hurricanes. So I'm probably going to catch some flack for this one because they go 1-0-2 on the week, 4 points in 3 games. Could definitely be worse. But I just don't love what I've seen from this team. 3-4-3 in their last 10. Again, 1-0-2 on the week. I know the goaltending's an issue, but this roster is good enough that it should not matter. Like, I know they're relying on Pyotr Kochetkov. Freddie Anderson sounds like he could be coming back relatively soon, but it's kind of hard to make a judgment call on that as far as A, will he be their starter when he comes back, and B, how quickly is he really going to be able to return? So for now, the Canes are at 21. I know some people aren't going to like that I'm dropping them 4 spots despite the 1 win and the 2 overtime/shootout losses, but again, just don't love what I've seen from this team. I think they're better than what they're showing. So for now, they are 21. Number 20, part of the reason this team falls, or part of the reason Carolina falls, is Minnesota because they go 3-0 on the week, or excuse me, 3-1 on the week, 7-3-0 in their last 10. Another one of those teams that has been very good since the firing of their ex-head coach. The Wild have seemingly turned around. I know it's still plenty of games left in the year. A lot of stuff can happen, but they've looked much better recently. Gustafson's been good. Fleury's also been better. The scoring's there. Matt Boldy, I think, is really back into form. Marco Rossi's been fantastic. Brock Faber is looking like a sneaky choice for the Calder Trophy. I don't think anyone's going to take that from Bedard at this point, but he's been one of the better rookies, maybe even the second best rookie on the year so far. So all good stuff from Minnesota. If they keep this up, they are probably that team that's going to be fighting for a wild card spot, given how good Winnipeg's been this year and how good the top 3 in the Central in general have been. But good stuff from Minnie. You love to see it as a hockey fan. I think it's good when they make the playoffs, even if they get bounced in the first round every year. So for now, they're 20. They're probably going to keep jumping, though, if they do what they've been doing the last 2 weeks. Um, Number 19, the team that actually went 3-0 on the week is Arizona. Arizona, not the most impressive last 10, 6-4-0, but above 500 is a good spot, and they're another reason why this Central's so tough. Um, a team that is outside the playoffs as we stand today, but they've been playing good hockey. Vemelka has improved. Ingram's fallen off a bit, so kind of more of a balance there, which obviously you'd love to see Ingram continue to put up Vezina numbers, but I don't think that was the most realistic situation for them. Michael Kessering had a great week, a couple goals, good number of points, so he's sprouted into maybe their second pair right defenseman, which not that they needed it super desperately, but that's definitely one of their weaker points on the roster. So if he continues to play well, that's great news for them. We'll see if they can keep it up, though. As a whole, the Arizona Coyotes had a very good week, jumping 2 spots to number 19. Number 18, jumping 1 spot, 2 spots. Sorry. The Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins go 2-1-0, 5-3-2, I believe, in their last 10. So it's been better in general from the Pens. Still need a little bit more. Again, this Metro is just hyper competitive. A lot of good teams in front of them, so they're going to need to juice it up quite a bit if they want to find themselves in a playoffs. Their power play's been better, which is one of the bigger issues they had in the month of November. If they can keep that up, they're going to be all right. We'll see if they can do that, though. Again, age is an issue with this team. Father Time is undefeated. It's a long season. We still got 50-ish games to play, so we'll see if the Pens can keep it up. But a good week this week finds them up 2 spots to number 18. Similarly, another older team playing pretty well, but in the Metro Division, Washington. Washington goes 3-1-0 on the week. Of course, they have that aforementioned game against Columbus, which was hilarious. The Caps are 5-3-2 in their last 10, also moving up 2 spots from number 19. Again, I don't love everything I've seen from this team, but they continue to get the results, so I can't really move them down. But I don't know. I get to watch this team more than I watch almost any other team, so I try not to judge them by the eye test too much more than I'm judging other teams by the eye test. But some of the games that they find a way to win, man, it's like, oh, I really don't love what I'm seeing, but they get the win anyway. So the Caps move up 2 spots, despite what every bone in my body tells me that they should be a end of this third row type team. But the results are the results. They move up a couple spots to number 17. Number 16, dropping a spot, a 2-2 week, 7-3-0 in their last 10 is Edmonton. I know they have a really strong last 10. I know they're 500 on the week, but the first 2 games they played this week that they lost were, oh man, it was like a return to the mediocrity of Stuart Skinner. McDavid and Draisaitl got shut down. The defense didn't look good. It was like red alert from where they were at in the beginning of the year, and then they kind of figured it out. They had a strong end to the week, so they saved themselves from falling further, but a little bit of a nervous yelp there from Edmonton. Hopefully, it's not a long-term issue. Hopefully, it's just a couple games skid. They get right back on track, which they did with the win at the end of the week here, but we got to make sure they keep that up. They have a long, long way to climb if they want to make it into the playoffs. I believe they're still in the bottom 7 or 8 teams points-wise, so a long way to go for the Oilers. They've still been good as of late, but this week I did not want to move them up, given especially those 2 losses that they had. Number 15, moving up a spot, just flip-flopping from last week, is Tampa Bay. They go 2-1, 6-4-0 in their last 10. This team is oddly inconsistent. It's something we haven't seen from Tampa in a long, long time, but that's part of the reason why they're pretty much smack dab in the middle of the board. Vasilevsky, again, starting to warm up a bit since returning from his injury. He had one game in particular. I think this week he was really good, like 28 saves on 29 shots. I'm blanking on who that game was against, but they need more of that from him because Johansson, since him returning, has just not seemed like much of an option. So the Bolts need to find consistency. Still not overly worried about them as long as these Atlantic teams don't turn it on too much, but it wouldn't surprise me to see them in a wild card spot for the first time in a few years, despite the talent they have on their roster, rather than seeing them in a divisional spot. Number 14, staying in the same spot as last week. They've cooled off a bit, at least for the 1 week window that we're talking about here. It's the New York Islanders. They go 1-1-1, still 6-1-3 in their last 10. They love collecting those overtime points, but didn't really want to move them above the teams ahead of them. It's all really tight in this Metro division. The next 2 teams are also in the Metro, so these 3 I could see just dog fighting it out until the end of the year for a playoff spot. A couple teams here that we didn't expect to be where they are, but nonetheless, the results, like I mentioned with the Capitals, are the results. It's hard to fight teams winning, especially teams going 6-1-3 in their last 10. That's 9.9 games worth of points in 10 games. Hard to do anything to deny that, despite how much, like the Caps, I don't love the game they've been playing. They play, as expected, that very defensive, wear you down, don't take a lot of shots, transition off the rush. It's not the most pretty hockey, but it's been working. So can't be mad at the Islanders for doing what they're doing because it's pretty similar to Washington. For that reason, they're number 14. Number 13, dropping one spot, is the New Jersey Devils, and flip-flopping with them. Once again, is Philadelphia. Just going to talk on both of these teams at once. So the Devils, 1-2-1 on the week, 5-4-1 in their last 10. Philadelphia, 2-1-1 on the week, 7-1-2 in their last 10. These two also played each other midweek, and they were right next to each other, so that made the decision even easier to flip-flop them. And I know those of you in the comments are going to be like, Cody, you said that teams don't flip-flop just because they beat each other. It's a little bit different when they're right next to each other the week prior, unless their records are vastly different. And the win that one team gets is the only win of the week, and they go 1-3. It's a pretty easy decision for me to flip-flop these two, so that's exactly what I did. Philly could have moved up one extra spot given the team at number 11 in the week that they had, but I think 12 is appropriate for them for now. We'll see if they can keep it up moving forward. Their record has been unreasonably good considering the roster they have on paper. New Jersey, on the other hand, still trying to figure out things with the goaltending. Some games it's okay. Some games it just doesn't look all that great. So they have to iron that out, I still think, if they want a deep run in the playoffs this year. But for now, they're holding pat in the Metro. I think they're going to be all right. Number 11, dropping 2 spots, the team that I was uncomfortable putting Philly above is Toronto. So they, of course, have that stinker of a game against Buffalo, an iffy game against New York, and earliest in the week, the 7-0 beating on Pittsburgh. So a strange week for the Leafs. I just don't really know what to make of it. Of course, still without Joseph Woll, and that has proved to be an issue given the way Ilya Samsonov has been playing. I'd expect Martin Jones to play today. I'm recording this at about 1 o'clock on Saturday, so we'll see who ends up starting in net for the Leafs tonight. But Sammy just seems like a non-option right now, which stinks. As a former Capital, I love the kid, want to see him be successful, but he just has struggled pretty mightily lately. So because of that, the Leafs are at 11. We'll see if they can rebound. I think they'll be fine once Joseph Woll comes back, but it's a little bit of thin ice for them for the time being when it comes to their goaltending. Number 10, moving up another spot and still very good recently, is the Nashville Predators. 2-1 this week, 8-2 in their last 10. They've been on an absolute heater. Another team making the Central, very, very interesting again. Really 5 teams in this division that could be fighting for a playoff spot, 6 if St. Louis can keep this up. So it's a really interesting division to keep an eye on. They seem to have their goaltending completely ironed out. The issues with UC Saros that started the year are completely gone. Kevin Lankinen's still been good. Philip Forsberg is quietly making a Hart Trophy nominee type year, I think. And Ryan O'Reilly's been very good for them. The depth guys like Evangelista, Tomasino, they've all just been fantastic. So again, this Preds roster that I've said week after week I don't love, proving me very wrong. 8-2 in their last 10, up a spot to number 10. Number 9, also moving up a spot despite an okay week, is Colorado. They go 2-2. They're 5-5 in their last 10. Of course, they have some turmoil, it seems, in the locker room with the whole Devin Taves situation. Alex Georgiev's still not been great. I don't know. This team's starting to worry me a little bit. I don't love what I've been seeing from them either. And you don't really like to see what was said by Devon Taves coming out of a locker room as strong as the Avs is supposed to be. So we'll see if they have some bigger problems going on, if there's, bigger locker room issues than what we've seen so far. Of course, we had the Arturi Lehkonen and Mikko Rantanen situation with Lekkonen's father, and now Devon Taves comes out and says what he says this past week. So interesting to keep an eye on the Avs. Definitely one of those top-end teams that we could see fall out if they have some of these issues moving forward. But for now, they're good enough to be at number 9, by my book at least. Number 8, falling a spot, is Florida. This team goes 1-2 on the week, also 5-5 in their last 10, but one team in particular hopped them this week. So not that they've been playing horribly, but sub 500, I think one spot is appropriate for them as well. Also dropping one spot, 2-1 on the week and 5-4-1 in their last 10. So just marginally better has been Los Angeles. They seem to have cooled off from the crazy run they were on the last couple weeks that saw them still unable to get to number 1 because of the Rangers. But They've been a bit less impressive lately. Pierre-Luc Dubois has not really been performing all that great. He hasn't been amazing all year, but definitely has not been performing as well recently. Cam Talbot's numbers have fallen off a bit. Of course, Phoenix Copley's hurt, so they have Dave Riddick as the backup now, which is a little bit more concerning than even having Copley in net. We'll see if the Kings can maintain it. Again, never going to be overly concerned about this team because of the depth they have, but just a bit of an iffy week despite the 2-1 record, and just in general over their last 10 have been kind of mediocre. Um, Number 6, jumping 2 spots. The main reason that these two teams have fallen is Vancouver. 2-0-2 on the week after their 3-0 week last week. They're now 7-1-2 in their last 10. This team's been playing money hockey. I mean, Demko's been really, really good. Casey DeSmith, the games he's played, is, as I've preached all year, been the backup that the Canucks needed. Miller been playing great. Quinn Hughes continues to be fantastic. The Zadorov signing has proved to be pretty solid, despite the fact that he's not putting up numbers. He's not going to wow you in any zone, really, but having that physicality that the Canucks have needed for a long time on defense, aside from Luke Shen, for the portion of the season he played last year, has been very, very good. So this team's really got it all going right now. We'll see if they can maintain it. 7-1-2 in their last 10 is a wild record. They move up 2 spots. They could very well move up more if they continue this, but of course the teams in the top 5 are all also very good. So we'll see if Vancouver is capable of keeping up with them. Leading off the top 5, they have a bit of a rough week in last 10 in general. 0-1-2 this week, 5-2-3 in their last 10 is Boston. Um, this team, again, they are kind of becoming hot and cold. They go through stretches where they look like the world beating team that finished with like 135 points last year, and then they go through stretches like this one where they struggle to score a bit. The goaltending is not at the level that it was at last year or even earlier this year. That's exactly what happened this week. Especially that Jets game yesterday. They kind of got manhandled, which the Jets are a very good team. They're obviously not on the board yet here, so that says enough about them. But the Bruins team just on that cold end of the hot and cold streaks that they love to go on. I'm sure they will rebound, but for now, they do have to drop a couple spots, just not really getting the results they need to stay in the top 3. Also dropping 2 spots, similar story here. It's Vegas. They go 1-2, 6-3-1 in their last 10, still very good. More so teams leapfrogging them that have been fantastic. The goaltending is a concern for them now. Both Hill and Thompson have had some injury issues. Yuri Patera has been called up. I believe they have a second goalie from Henderson also called up right now. So that's a pretty big concern for Vegas. Those two guys have both been very good. Their numbers, of course, like Boston, have cooled off since the start of the year, but you need NHL goalies in your lineup ready to play, and right now they don't have either of them. So that is an issue for Vegas. We'll see if Patera can hold down the fort for them while, both of them heal. Hopefully one of them at least is back pretty quickly. For the time being, though, 1-2 on the week, and the other 2 teams above them or jumping them, having played fantastic, have caused them to drop these 2 spots. Number 2, and you could really put either of these teams in either of these spots, but I think Dallas is just below the team at number 2. They go 2-0-1 this week, 6-3-1 in their last 10. This team has been very, very good, and they're doing it without Jake Ottinger in net, which is scary for the rest of the Central Division in the West, because things are probably only going to get better once Otter comes back, though Scott Wedgwood has been very good in the time he's played, and Ottinger had fallen off a bit before his injury. So Dallas has been firing on all cylinders. Their depth has been great. Mason Marchment had a great 2-week stretch. All the big guys that you need to perform have performed. Thomas Harley has absolutely rocketed out of his shell. One of those young guys that you really didn't expect a ton from production-wise, but he's been unbelievable. So all things go for Dallas. It's been a great couple weeks for them. Of course, 6-3-1 in the last 10. They move up 2 spots to number 3. Number 2, again, also jumping 2 spots, pretty closely in lockstep with Dallas. 3-0-1 this week, 8-1-1 in their last 10 is Winnipeg. This team has been unreal. Connor Hellebuck is putting up Vezina numbers. Their scoring is great. Doing all of this without Kyle Connor, by the way. So really, really impressive stuff from the Jets. This is a roster that a lot of people probably didn't have making the playoffs this year, but they've been unbelievable. I don't know if it's a cohesion issue. I don't know if getting rid of Blake Wheeler really did that much for this team or what, but they've been just really, really impressive to watch. Again, that game against Boston yesterday is the perfect image of that. They're playing another team that's a top 5 team in the league, top 3 team, top 4 team in the standings, and they just took care of them pretty handily. So really impressive from the Jets. I was very tempted to move them to number 1 this week, but the same team that's been number 1 for a good while here remains there, and it's the New York Rangers. They're only 6-4-0 in their last 10, but 2-1 on the week. Um, their record as a whole is still very, very strong. I think Vancouver's now surpassed them as the number one team in the league overall, but the record's still very strong for them. Shesterkin's been good. Jonathan Quick had a very good game against the Oilers, despite the fact that the numbers didn't look all that great. So, all good stuff from the Rangers. They do remain a number one, though I think there are some teams definitely getting closer, namely Winnipeg and Dallas, to potentially catching them at that number one spot. But that's going to be it for this week. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Sure, some people probably think I have the Rangers too high at this point, but I just love what I've been seeing from them alongside some of these other teams in the top five. So thanks as always for watching. I do think I'm still going to try to have the next power rankings out next Friday, despite the shortened week, but I'll try to give you guys an update at some point during the week between covering the World Juniors and the nightly recap. So thanks as always for watching. Enjoy the rest of your holidays, and we'll talk to you all soon.